This is the Calcio FC podcast. You're with me, David Ferrini. I'm in the studio in London with Emmet Gates and Cancian, the Destination Calcio senior writers. We're going to talk about Inter. They're in pole position now, guys, but they've got a tough few fixtures coming up. They've got the Coppa Italia, Italian Cup. It's against Milan, so anything can happen in that. They've got Champions League against Bayern. They've got the first leg away there as well. Potential banana skins in Serie A. We're talking Udinese, Parma, Cagliari, Bologna. So those first three, all relegation-threatened teams. Bologna in hot form after that brilliant win over Lazio. Simone Inzaghi, Dan, can he keep the Inter train on the track?
I think he can. I think he's shown last season that he knows how to win a league title. And Inter have got by far the best squad in Serie A. And I think you get to the point now where they are rolling, and to continue your metaphor, it's going to be very difficult to stop this train. They struggled last month against Fiorentina. They lost 3-0. They lost to Juventus a couple of weeks after that. And everyone thought, oh, hang on a minute, maybe they don't have what it takes to win the league. But I think that by now we can, I mean, they do. They're as I said, they've got the best squad. And they're just getting results. The draw in Napoli yesterday and gone there for a bit. Probably lucky to escape at the point, but they beat Atalanta convincingly on Sunday night, and now it's their titles to lose. I've said this for weeks, it's their titles to lose, and there's just nothing to me to suggest that they're going to fall off a cliff. Yes, the fixtures list is difficult because they've got Derby, they've got Bayern, the Champions League. But I think that you're now at the point where fixtures are actually not an hindrance, but it's something that they look forward to build more and more and more momentum going forward.
I mean, that's good for Inter fans. They want to hear that. Yeah. So, and I guess after that Juventus loss, they've rebounded well. They're looking okay in Serie A now, on top by 3 points. They won the 6-pointer against Atalanta. 7-match unbeaten run now, 6 wins and a draw. That was in Naples. We were there for that one. Emmet and I. So Lex on TikTok says, I wish they beat Inter. They're talking about Atalanta here. Yeah, a few other people do as well. They'd probably want the Scudetto race to endure for a bit longer. A few doubts around Napoli. Inter have only dropped 10 of a possible 36 points this year. It might sound like a lot for Inter, but that's probably the best out of any team. 2 losses there, apart from Roma. They're in the best form, but nowhere in the discussion. Maybe on the brink of Europa League discussion at the moment. But 2 losses for Inter this year. Napoli have dropped 13 of 33 points. Have played 1 game less. Inter had the catch-up game with Fiorentina. Just 1 loss to Como for Napoli. So just the 1 loss. It's not too bad. Only 5 wins, though. That's where it's going wrong. The goals have dried up, let's be honest. David Neres is really needed back in that side. Atalanta, though, have dropped 16 of 33 points. And only 4 wins, 6 draws, 2 losses have been the Scudetto showdowns against Napoli and Inter. The 6-pointers there, both at home. What's next for Atalanta? Emmet Gates.
I don't know. I feel at this point, I know we have said this previously that Atalanta are out of the title race. We said that after the Napoli defeat in Bergamo, and then we kind of readjusted our predictions when they smashed Juve 4-0. But I think the wheels of, to use the train metaphor again, David, I think that the wheels are slowly starting to come off after the Ademola Lookman, Gasperini penalty shenanigans and the fallout from that. You know, they beat Empoli 5-1, you know, in Tuscany, but, you know, the form Empoli's in, you know, Austria could beat Empoli. And then obviously the win at Juve. I feel like you do kind of get the impression that the end of an era is coming. I think Gasperini, and he's said as much, that I might not remain. His contract expires in the summer of 2026. So technically he does have another year, but you do kind of get the sense, the things that he said, that this may be the end. The next couple of months might be the beginning of the end. He's been linked with Roma. He's been linked even with Juve. He was Juve's Primavera coach way back in the early noughties. So I do feel like Atalanta's, you know, locomotive is starting to buckle as we get into the business end of the season. I do still think they're good enough for the top 4. They'll probably finish 3rd, just because I think anywhere from 4th to 7th, the teams in that area are all inconsistent. And Atalanta themselves are now starting to show that inconsistency, but I do feel like we can rule them out of the title race.
They got the tougher run of the top 3, don't
exactly.
they?
They've got Lazio, Milan,
Fiorentina,
Parma. Parma's coming.
That's a match day 38 game as well, and Parma could be on struggle street then, really scrapping for some points.
So Atalanta needed to win the games that they end up losing,
At
because
least not lose to Napoli,
because they
Inter.
have the tougher run out of the three teams. Inter obviously of Europe, Napoli don't, and Atalanta now don't, but they had the harder running, so they had to win all their matches to get to this point. They haven't, and I think we can sadly rule them out.
So the locomotive could be leaving Bergamo. That's another train reference there. If Trainline or Freccia Rossa want to get on board and sponsor the podcast, please get in touch. But on Gasperini there, Michael Laurenti writes on YouTube, I definitely understand his impact in Serie A, also the past years in European play, but he wants to question, if he went to a bigger club without having the theme of being an underdog, do you think his coaching style would match with the Juventus, Inter, or Milan? He's the king of Bergamo. Big clubs always take that spotlight. Can he?
We know the answer to that, because he was at Inter Milan.
Yeah, he only lasted, 5-6 games?
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
He?
Which
And it was banter years. Let's go. Post Mourinho.
Yeah, sure. I don't think you can define him by those 2 months he was Inter Milan. But as we were saying off air, there is definitely an element of having a different degree of expectations placed on your shoulders. He very much is someone who needs, like all managers need time to an extent, but I think his football is so complex. His players need to be completely buying into that, and I don't think he has the time to implement that at a club like Inter Milan or Juventus
Big
or AC Milan. A big club.
Also big egos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
I think on a personal level, obviously, he can be a little bit abrasive. We've seen that with, we fell out with Papu Gomez after them two working together for years. And obviously, his comments with Lookman essentially throwing him under the bus in public, which you should never do. Like, that's, managerial 101.
Yeah.
Always publicly defend your players, even if they did something wrong. But I think the thing with Gasperini is he likes to get not unknowns, but players that he can easily mold and adapt. And a lot of players at big clubs aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, they're not.
And
he wants
also
players that want to prove themselves.
Exactly.
And also, if you move to a big club, you're likely to inherit big profile players that you may not necessarily want. Atalanta, the players he didn't want were in Atalanta were happy to sort of sell them on, because they wanted to give him a blank canvas to design and to create his own side. You're not going to do that at Milan. You're not going to be able to do that at Inter, but you're not going to be able to do that at Juventus, because they've got certain players who are there, they've been there for long, and the club may be reluctant to sell them or just unwilling to sell them.
Yeah, well, credit where credit's due. He's got really good results from Matteo Retegui.
Yeah.
Look at him now. He's starring for Italy. Obviously, credit to Genoa for bringing him over. Credit to Roberto Mancini for finding him. Unearthing him.
Tigre.
Yeah.
So, Boca weren't even using him. So Tigre, who's on loan, now he's at Atalanta after that road through. And Gasperini was able to harness even more, squeeze even more out of him.
When you look at the Catalara, complete flop at Milan.
Yeah.
He had only one season, but he didn't look like a Serie A
Probably
quality player.
a better player.
And 2 years at Gasperini, and he looks not a world beater, but he looks oceans better than what he was at Milan.
Zappacosta as well, what he's got out of him.
Well, exactly.
He
I was going to
finished.
say Zappacosta was going to be my suggestion, because at Chelsea he looked like barely Premier League standard right back, and Atalanta is completely reborn.
And he's versatile now. Zappacosta can play on the left, can play on the right.
Yeah. What I will say with Gasperini, you can see why big clubs would be attracted to him, because the way he changes slightly, he gets his players to buy into his ethos, and he's got this. His football is superb. When his football is in full flow, I don't think there is a better brand football in Europe at the minute. So you can see why that would be attractive to a big club.
Yeah.
But by the same time, I think the reasons that make him attractive are also what will make life so difficult for him at a big club, because as we just said, it takes time for him, and he may not get the time to implement it.
Yeah, as a coach that needs time. And as you said, they want players that can buy into the system, into the ethos, and that's what Antonio Conte is doing at Napoli. What's next for them? Milan, Bologna away after the international break, then 7 teams in the bottom half. They've got the easiest run out of the top 3. Can Inter hold on with 9 matches remaining, 27 points up for grabs of those 9 games remaining in the Serie A season? Or can the Rome-based sides do them in and help out the contenders, Atalanta and Napoli? We'd love to see that go down to the wire. 2 of the big clubs, the 2 most recent Scudetto winners. Inter want to hold on to the title with Simone Inzaghi there, but we'll see how they go.